In this video, I'm going to be sharing my best road trip packing tips, including some really weird ones that I promise you haven't heard of before. Now, in case you're new here, hi, I'm Christina from happytowander.com. And this is my packing channel that is dedicated to tried and true packing tips and gear reviews. So be sure to like and subscribe if that sounds like your kind of thing. And stick around until the end for a free road trip packing list that incorporates all these tips. All right, we're gonna start with an obvious one that is nonetheless super important, and that is to keep quick essentials as close as possible. Because yes, when it comes to road trip packing strategy, you wanna make sure that the following items are always within an arm's reach. Wet wipes, an emergency sick bag, a garbage bag or a few, hair ties, Tide to go or some kind of stain remover, chewing gums to help you stay awake, as well as breath mints, cash in case you need to pay for any tolls or parking, a portable charger and charging cables, including extra long charging cables that can reach all the way to the back, some small microfiber towels for quick cleanups. And if you want to really be careful, you can look into innovative camping toilet solutions like this. And if you have space, potentially also a change of clothes in case you spill anything. Now, if you have a car full of people, something I would really recommend is having a grab bag with these items both in the front and in the back so that whoever needs it can reach for it. And for passengers in the back, a really cool hack that I've seen is actually using one of those over-the-door shoe organizers because they have all these different pouches that you can load up with these individual items. So you could always hang that on the back of one of the front seats, and then all the passengers in the back can have easy access to these different things. So I think that's a really cool trick. Tip number 2 is to have varied weather essentials handy as well, rather than packing everything away in different suitcases. So of course, this is going to depend on where you're going, but a lot of the time during a road trip, throughout the day, you're going to be exposed to a variety of weather conditions. So regardless of which weather conditions come up, you probably want to be prepared. So for everybody that's in the car, I would definitely recommend you have some extra layers so that you can keep warm if it gets too chilly. Also a thin waterproof layer with a hood in case you go out and it suddenly starts to rain, as well as some sun protection as well, like a hat and sunglasses, because when that sun comes in through the car, I think you've probably all experienced this, it can get so hot and it's absolutely miserable if you've left your sunglasses all the way in the back of the trunk. I would also consider bringing a mat for muddy shoes as well if you're going to be traveling during a time when you might expect some rain. I think that covers pretty well the things that you need to have at hand during a road trip, but if there's anything I missed, let me know. What is one essential item you always need to make sure you have within arm's reach during a road trip? I always love to hear your ideas because I'm sure I've missed something. Next, let's move on to a tip that I kind of consider the foundational basis of my entire road trip packing strategy. And that is to pack several smaller occasion or location bags rather than, let's say, 1 or 2 giant suitcases. Now, I honestly think that the biggest challenge when it comes to packing for a road trip is making sure that you have access to everything you need when you need it. Which obviously isn't super simple if you've just got everything you're packing crammed into 2 or 3 really large suitcases that are stuffed in the back of the car. Granted, I think the big suitcase system does work well if you're doing a trip where you're just basically unpacking once, let's say you're in a cruise or something, and you're not going to have to constantly unpack and repack. But as we know, road trips don't tend to be like that. Usually you're only in one place for a night or two, and it can be absolutely miserable having to unpack and repack a giant suitcase every single time that you're changing locations. So what I think makes a lot more sense is actually packing several smaller bags based on occasion or location. Because then you can just grab the one that you need depending on where you are, and then you don't have to constantly be unpacking some giant suitcase. And packing a bunch of smaller bags gives you a ton more flexibility in terms of actually fitting the different bags around your car, because as you know, if you have 1 or 2 giant suitcases, they can only realistically fit in one place. But if you have several smaller bags, you can kind of play Tetris a little bit more and fit them around as needed. So to make this a little bit clearer, let's move on to our next tip, which is to again pack your bags based on location or occasion rather than by person. So when people pack for a road trip, depending on whether they're traveling with family or friends, very often they're either going to do 1 suitcase per person, or they're going to pack based on the type of stuff. So clothing in 1 suitcase and the outdoorsy gear in another suitcase, things like that. But I actually think that the smarter way to pack, again, is actually based on location or occasion. And of course, this is going to depend on where you're going and the type of trip that you're doing. But let's say on a standard road trip, there might be a day that you go hiking, or there might be a day that you have a beach day, or maybe just one night when you go into the hotel and all you want to do is crash. For trips like these where you're doing a lot of different activities, it makes more sense to actually pack your bags based on the activities that you'll be doing. So let's say packing everybody's swim gear in one bag or packing everybody's camping gear in one bag, rather than having each person with their own stuff. Because this way, when you're pulling over to say, go for a spontaneous swim, then you can just grab those bags with everybody's stuff for that purpose and you're good to go. And trust me, this is going to be way easier than just rooting around in everybody's suitcases trying to find the right thing. And on a related note, something that I find very underrated to bring, even if you aren't doing a camping trip, is bringing a few camping chairs, because you never know when you want to pull over, maybe sit outside for a bit. Let's say you have a nice view or you want to just enjoy your snacks outside. Having some camping chairs in the back, if you have space, is just going to make that way easier. And if you are following this tip and packing something that's like a beach kit, something that is very underrated that I really recommend you pack is actually baby powder. And this is a tip that I picked up from one of you in the comments. Amy shared that baby powder is also amazing for removing sand off the body. No one likes wet, sandy feet, and it works so well at getting it all off. So this is a tip that I've tried and it does work super well. And actually baby powder serves a million other purposes as well. Like I remember my first backpacking trip in Europe, I would constantly use baby powder to soak up the sweat in my feet and make my shoes smell a little bit less gross. So really multifunctional tool and something that most people forget to bring. So yes, thanks so much for sharing that, Amy. If you have any other tips for what to pack on a road trip, be sure to let me know in the comments. I love learning from you guys and I have a full note with different tips. So yes, don't be shy, be sure to chime in. And as an extension of this whole packing per location idea, I would definitely recommend this next tip, which is to pack an overnight bag that has your toiletries and your pajamas. Because again, on a road trip, there might be times when you just arrive at your hotel, you're super tired, all you want to do is crash. And the last thing you want to do is have to root through your suitcase or unpack or lug big bags around. So in these cases, it can be super helpful to just have a bag that has all your pajamas and your toiletries, everything you need to just crash overnight. And that way you don't have to worry about unpacking and going through all your stuff. On a similar note, something I would really recommend is creating a go bag. So imagine this is a bag that you just bring with you anytime you are stopped. Let's say you're going to the gas station, stopping at a rest stop, or maybe just going to the supermarket. So some things I would definitely include in this would be hand sanitizer, about $20 cash just in case you run into a place that doesn't accept card, any valuables that you can't live without that you don't want to keep in your car, like any sentimental items, whatever, keep that in the bag so that it's always with you. And toilet paper, which is self-explanatory. I think we probably all have a horror story about encountering a rest stop bathroom or something that doesn't have toilet paper. So always make sure you have some on you just in case. Now moving on to our next tip, which is to bring drawstring garbage bags to hold your garbage and your recycling. Having a dedicated trash bag immediately at the start of your trip is going to save you a lot of mess and it's going to really clear the chaos right off the bat. But something I would really recommend is actually bringing a bag that has a drawstring. And the reason for that is it's a lot easier to just clip up as you need. So you can use a carabiner, just clip it up. That way the trash bag is easily accessible and you don't have to root around the car for it. And the other main benefit of having a drawstring is that way, if you are throwing any snacks away, any wrappers, anything that even has a bit of a smell, it is nice to be able to just do up that drawstring. And then that way you're not going to have to be smelling these things the entire time. Now, speaking of garbage bags, something I always recommend for trips is to stock up on essentials that are really difficult to buy a small quantity of. So things like garbage bags or laundry pods, for instance, that are almost always sold in packs of 20 or more. Definitely make sure you don't forget these, because I don't know about you, there's nothing I find more annoying than being forced into buying a giant bag of garbage bags or a giant bag of Ziploc bags just because I forgot to plan properly. So definitely prioritize items like this. Now, next tip in terms of what to wear for your road trip, definitely dress for comfort, but also think practically and strategically as well. So something I would definitely recommend is dressing in layers, because again, the temperature can really fluctuate during a road trip. I would also avoid synthetic fibers like polyester, just because these are not very breathable and they do have the tendency to start smelling after a while, which is not great news if you're going to be sitting in a car for 8 hours straight. So definitely wear more breathable fabrics, natural fibers like cotton or wool. For similar smell reasons, I would also avoid having bare feet. Definitely always have socks, because the last thing you want is sweaty feet marinating in a closed vehicle. But definitely prioritize having shoes that are easy to slip on and off, just because recognizing that you're going to be in a car for a long time, you are probably going to want to take your shoes off at some point. Bearing in mind, though, that you should probably always be wearing socks in any case. Now, some other comfort items might be a smart thing to bring as well. So things like a travel pillow or a travel blanket. I actually have a set that is both. So you have your blanket that's inside your pillow. I think that's really handy. But bring whatever you need for comfort. I've actually heard some people say that the ultimate road trip hack is bringing a maternity pillow so that you can just be super, super comfortable for your trip. I haven't personally experimented with this, but let me know in the comments if you have. And if you need them, do consider wearing compression socks or compression sleeves so that you can help your circulation out because, again, you're going to be sitting for a very long time. Now, another very important one is this next tip, which is to actually write down any emergency contact numbers in the car and keep them in a very visible place. So with this, I would include any accommodation numbers for hotels and places you're staying. Also, if you're renting a car, maybe the phone number of any emergency contacts with the rental company, and also your own personal emergency contacts. Basically, what you're trying to plan for here is any instance when you are out and you don't have internet access, for instance, and maybe you need to call your hotel to let them know that you're running late. Because yes, sometimes hotels do give away rooms because they're overbooked. And if you don't turn up when you say you will, then you might end up not having a room when you arrive. So definitely don't take any chances. This can also be a helpful safety measure in case you do get into an accident or anything happens. That way, if somebody finds the car, then they have easy access to your emergency contacts right away. This also eases the burden of whoever the planner is on the road trip, because that way they don't have to be the only person that knows the emergency numbers and things. And everybody in the car, if anything were to go wrong, would have access to the phone numbers that they need to call. Because let's be honest, nobody memorizes phone numbers anymore. On a similar safety note, definitely make sure you prepare an emergency kit for your road trip. Like I said, my whole strategy is basically creating a bunch of smaller kits and bags. But for your emergency kit, here are some things I would definitely include. Firstly, a headlamp, a little first aid kit with essentials like band-aids and Imodium, a high-vis vest in case you get stranded and it's dark, a nice warm blanket in case you get stranded and it's cold, matches or a lighter, a big black Sharpie, and a piece of cardboard in case you need to make a sign. And this is gonna sound crazy, but you never know when you might need it, a bottle that is big enough for you to pee in if it comes to it. And my last tip for this emergency kit is to just pack it in a very obnoxiously bright bag or something that you can't ignore or lose track of, because when you need it in an emergency, you wanna be able to locate it immediately. All right, the next tip is to perfect your snacking strategy or snack strap. Let's be serious about this. Good snacks can be the difference between an amazing road trip where everyone gets along, everyone's laughing and singing songs together, and a road trip where everybody is ready to actively commit murder. So here's some general snacking tips. Firstly, whenever possible, make sure you are getting your snacks from supermarkets and grocery stores rather than from gas stations, because not only is it going to be much cheaper from a supermarket, you're also going to have access to way more nutritious options and a lot more options as well. Plus, with a lot of larger supermarkets, sometimes they have hot food sections and even dining areas and bathrooms that you can take advantage of. So really a win-win, and they're usually in better condition than the gas station ones. Next, make sure you load up the car with some non-melty snacks and also drinks that don't suck at room temperature. Unfortunately, chocolate doesn't really do great on a road trip unless you eat it really soon after the trip starts, or if you plan to intentionally keep the chocolates in a nice cooler bag. Because yes, unfortunately, I am speaking from personal experience. A lot of the time, after a few hours in the sun, chocolate can become very disappointing. If you do want a chocolate fix, M&Ms are obviously a really great choice because of the candy coating. But dried fruit is also a nice, healthier alternative if you want a sweet fix that isn't going to melt and become terrible. Now, on that note, you do want to make sure you have both salty and sweet options, because trust me, during a road trip, you're going to want both. And my go-to salty snacks would be jerky as well as Pringles, because actually, fun fact, Pringles are perfectly fitted. I mean, I don't think this is the purpose of them, but Pringles cans do coincidentally fit perfectly into a cup holder. But when you are buying snacks, do prioritize protein, because that's going to help you stay fuller for longer. A very important caveat is to avoid any foods that are going to stink up the car. So I love jerky, that's my go-to, and to me it's worth it, but jerky can make the car smell a little bit funky. Needless to say, things like hard-boiled eggs are probably also a no-go. To be honest though, most people do tend to go nose blind after a while in a road trip, so do with that information what you will. Another category of snacks I find very, very important are what I deem to be refreshing snacks. So I'm sure you've all kind of run into a situation before where you've eaten a bunch of really salty foods and you just want something refreshing. So what I would put under this category would be things like fresh fruit and vegetables. So apples are a really resilient one, fresh berries if you're not traveling too long, and also just anything with a bit of a crunch and some juiciness to it, I think are really, really good to have on a road trip. These also tend to be quite healthy as well. And needless to say, do avoid any snacks that can be messy, so things with a lot of sauce, because that's just a recipe for disaster. All right, speaking of spills, do be very choosy with both your drinks and also your drink vessels. A lot of the time, people just focus on the snacks that they're gonna bring and they completely forget about drinks, so they just throw whatever, some water bottles in the car. But no, drinks are central to the road trip experience. Ideally, during your trip, you will have a cooler or a cooler bag to keep drinks chilled. But in any case, as a backup, you do want to have a few drink options that are going to be fine at room temperature. So things like bottled teas or juices tend to work really well for this. Having some electrolyte packets or some electrolyte drinks like Gatorade can also be a really good option just to help you stay hydrated throughout the trip. And I would also just bring some instant coffee that you like or some teas of choice for you as well, so that if you're in a situation, trust me, I know, like if you're in a situation where there's no coffee and you have to drive early in the morning, it is the worst feeling. So make sure you have a few instant coffee packets on you. And if you choose flavors of coffees or teas that you really like, then that will save you in a situation where there are no other options except for crappy gas station coffee. And what's great is most gas stations will actually have boiling water that you can, sometimes it's free, sometimes you have to pay for it. But in any case, it's going to be cheaper than buying the coffee there too. So it can be a cost saving measure as well. But in addition to bringing drinks and packing drinks, also remember the importance of having a really good insulated mug, because this is going to help keep your drinks at the right temperature. I live and die by my Stanley cup. I love it. I don't care if it makes me basic. It is my emotional support water bottle, and I love how cold it keeps my drink. So definitely bring a few insulated containers as well. That said, for drivers, maybe bringing a water bottle, one of the squeezy ones that only requires one hand would be a really good idea, because then you can just quickly hydrate and not need to fumble around unscrewing bottle caps and things like that. Now, if you didn't already think that I was very intense about snacking and food, you are going to love this next tip, which is to prepare a snacking kit. Because yes, beyond just snacks themselves, you should actually have a lot of tools that will help you enjoy said snacks and drinks with ease. So some things I would include in this snacking kit include a can opener or bottle opener, as well as a corkscrew if you're a wine person. This is probably my number one forgotten item, a corkscrew. Also make sure you have different types of cutlery. So at least a fork and spoon, maybe a little knife if you want, and some chopsticks if you're a noodle person like me. A small pair of scissors would be quite important as well, just because from my experience, a lot of the time I've noticed there's packets that you just can't get open without the help of scissors. So that's going to make your life way easier. And of course, lots of napkins and your seasonings of choice. Some salt and pepper packets can really go a long way. And if you're a messy eater, maybe pack a bib. And again, if you are organizing a road trip with multiple people, a really fun hack that I've seen is actually bringing a bunch of cupcake liners or little mini Tupperwares or collapsible bowls, whatever you need. That way, rather than have to pass around a bunch of different bags of candy and chips and things like that, you can just portion it out into a tiny bowl for everyone. So I think that's really cute. Okay, similar concept to snack strat. Next, what we need to discuss is cooler strat if you're going to bring one. So let's move on to our next tip, which is to keep your cooler as organized as possible. So consider using mini dividers or little bags or containers within your cooler just to keep everything organized. Also, to keep your cooler cold, something that you can consider is freezing a bunch of water bottles in advance and putting those on the bottom of the cooler, because apparently that keeps it cold for longer. And another trick that I've heard, let me know if you've ever tried this. I don't personally have a freezer that's big enough, but apparently putting your cooler in a freezer in advance is going to keep things way colder as well. Now, this next one is a bit more of an organizational tip, but that's just to pack a few carabiners so that it's easy for you to hoist bags up and kind of clip things up as needed. This can be really handy for making sure that different bags, purses, whatever you have are within arm's reach. Like I said before, having a garbage bag clipped up by a carabiner can be a huge lifesaver when it comes to longer road trips. And another somewhat random one is to bring a few fitted sheets, especially older fitted sheets if you have them. These can have a ton of random uses when it comes to a road trip. So some of the more obvious ones would be to cover up the belongings that you have in your trunk in case your rental car doesn't have a parcel shelf. That way you can kind of conceal that you have all this stuff in the back. I've also seen some people use a fitted sheet and they clip it into the back seats to kind of make a seat cover that captures all the crumbs and spills and things, especially if you have kids. So I think that's pretty smart as well. And just generally for road trips, a fitted sheet can serve a lot of different purposes. Like it can spontaneously serve as a beach blanket or a picnic blanket. And in a pinch, if you arrive at a motel and you don't like the look of those sheets, then you always have your own to fall back on. Now, finally, this tip might seem a little silly because it's not about physically packing stuff, but I do think it's super, super important and something that people overlook, and that is to pack as much entertainment as possible. If you have a very long drive ahead, you want to make sure you have pre-chosen a bunch of podcasts, playlists, audiobooks, things that are going to keep you entertained throughout the ride. Because trust me, you don't want to be wasting time while you're actually on the road trying to decide amongst everyone what you want to listen to. Definitely have this prepped in advance and your life is going to be so much easier. Some fun entertainment ideas that can keep everyone engaged include trivia podcasts. And if you're traveling with kids, a really cute idea I saw was getting them a new toy or a new activity book, something like that, and then giving it to them to unwrap at the start of the road trip. Because obviously for kids, if it's something that's brand new, that's going to hold their attention way longer than if you just bring a toy that they've already had for a long time and already have played with multiple times. They're going to be way more excited about this new toy that they just opened or this new book or new activity thing. So yeah, definitely keep that tip in mind. All right, thanks so much for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe for more packing videos just like this one. And you can check out this link here for that free road trip packing list that I promised. I'll see you next time. Bye.